What's up, Sabra? I'm back. Another walking edition of your father's journey, or your father's story, rather. So, I'm going to move on. Been talking about my adolescence. I'm kind of flipping around in the book a little bit. Just like to talk about different things, maybe not stick so much on one subject for so long. Anyways, so moving along to the next chapter called Lessons I've Learned in My Life, I think is what it's called. Either way. Yeah, so it's basically like adulthood, but that's not what the title or the chapter is called. Whatever, who gives a shit. Anyways, so lessons I've learned in life. So the first question that I came up to is, or I thought would be good to talk about, kind of is on the tail end of the previous video about you coming into this world. So anyways, the question is, did your life take an expected turn? And what did you do? I think it's something along those lines. Yeah, so the unexpected turn, I think initially probably, obviously becoming a young teenage father, 19, almost 20 years old, that was unexpected. But I think probably the bigger, more unexpected turn that happened in my life was when I became a single father. That was very unexpected. I've told you the story of how that all happened. Let's just go into it here. Why not? Who cares? That's what the whole purpose of this stuff is. So, you were young. You weren't even, I think you were a year old. You and your mom had moved down to Las Vegas with me, and we were living in off-base housing, and everything actually was going pretty decently. Your mom was definitely homesick, though. I know that for sure, and I did my best to accommodate by, making friends with other young couples. But your mom never really made friends with anybody. I mean, my friends, though, she was pretty decent friends with Dan Elefante and Matt Pollock, so that was good at least. But she was definitely homesick, and things happened over the course of just under a year. It happened really quick, actually, Sabra. So, we were on off-base housing, and we finally we were on a waiting list, because you need to basically wait your turn to get on-base housing when you're in the military, because it's really, what is that called? Everybody wants to be on there. It's pretty tough to get on the list and get a house, because it's so long. It usually takes many months. But we were only in off-base housing for maybe 3 or 4 months, and we got really lucky and got a house on base. And so when we went there, that's kind of when things actually started going pretty downhill between me and your mom. She was getting more homesick. What happened? Oh, and she'd get really upset, really quickly. Because, I think that you may or may not know this, I'm not sure, but Shyla definitely had bipolar disorder. And if you don't know what that is, that's a whole thing in itself, man. That was crazy. Yeah, so I don't know if she was ever diagnosed, to tell you the truth. But she definitely had it. I mean, her mood swings would go from she'd be super happy, everything is the greatest ever, what a great life, to I effing hate you, Casey, this place sucks, and we're not talking day to day, we're talking in the blink of an eye. And so that was like super, and I didn't know that, I didn't know that going in. And so that was something that I was kind of dealing with. And she started using substances, like she was drinking more. Gosh, I want to say that she had like gotten weed from somewhere in Las Vegas, and she was like smoking in the house. She was like smoking cigarettes in the house, and that was really starting to put our relationship on the fritz, because I was in the mode of, probably as one should be, like I'm a parent now, like I need to take care of business, like this is really important to be a good father and a husband. Like, this is not my route, this is not my path. I will not be doing that. So it caused a lot of friction and abrasion between me and your mother. And it all kind of blew up one day. You were outside, you and I were outside, we were doing something, and there was like this, next to the living room, there's like this big window that looked outside into the backyard. And you were back there, you and I were back there playing or something. And I don't know what happened. But something happened to get Shyla really agitated, and she came up to the window. She was like yelling at me for whatever reason, and I like put my hands up because I couldn't hear her, and she like hit the window, boom, slammed her hand like through the window, and glass went everywhere, and she was instantly like whoosh, like bleeding everywhere. I mean, it cut her like right on the wrist. It was like super gnarly. And I was like, holy shit. And so we went immediately to the ER, and blah, blah. Got her all, she ended up having to have surgery, and they like messed up her nerves. Like, it was a whole ordeal, Saber. It was a thing. It was such a thing that like, she had to have surgery, and then this is really where everything went nosedive downhill, as they prescribed her pain pills. I honestly don't remember what it was, but, I don't think it was like Oxycontins. I don't know if that was even a thing back then, but it was definitely like she was taking something, and she was like she got addicted really quick. I mean, it like numbed the pain and whatever mental, emotional stuff was going on with her. And I mean, it went downhill really quick. And geez, am I going to tell you the whole story? Okay, I'll tell you the whole story. We're already here. I mean, I'm already talking about it. So, yeah, and it was really hard for me when she was doing this, because obviously, it's my wife and she's out of her mind. But, like my brain is almost like starting to turn a little bit, like, like I need to take care of my kid. Like that really was where my mind was heading. It's like, I can't have my daughter around this. Like, I was starting to kind of realize what was going on, I think. I don't know necessarily at a conscious level, I can't tell you that, but definitely at a subconscious level. So anyways, things started to go downhill when she got addicted to that. I remember there's this one instance, Sabra, I will never forget this. I mean, this is like, these two events happened one right after the other. So I worked swing shifts when I was in the military. At this particular time period, like you switch depending on your life and blah, blah, blah. But at this moment in time, I was on swing shifts. So my base was like an hour away. So it was like an hour away. I had to get dropped off on the main base, and then we all jumped in a van, and then 10 or 12 of us went up to work. That's what we did, a few days a week, and I think it was like 8-hour shifts or 9-hour shifts, something like that. Anyways, so I was on swing shifts, and I remember, so this is like right after your mom has had her surgery, she's on pain pills, that whole thing, like things are not great, but we're kind of working through it. And I come home I don't get home until like 11 o'clock, midnight, something like that. And I walk in the door, Sabra, and you are walking around in like, you don't have any clothes on, you just have a diaper, and it's like filled with shit and piss. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Like, you come up to the door to greet me, and I'm like, hey, Sabra, what's up? And it smells like smoke in the house, like cigarette smoke. And I'm like, what is she smoking in the house? Like, and I come, through the entry hallway. There's a little, foyer. And so I go in the main door and then come around the corner, and Shyla is laying on the couch with a smoking cigarette in her hand, and it's starting to burn the couch cushion. And I lost my mind. What are you doing? Blah, 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 daughter. Like, we got into a pretty gnarly argument. Or at least I did, because she was so blah, 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 like out of her mind. And that's when I'm like, oh God, what is going on? So that happened that night, and, we end up, I think maybe we settle down a little bit and talk it out. I don't really remember that part afterwards. But anyways, so the next day, I usually, kind of the way that it happens, Sabra, like the daily habits at that point in time, where I would, come home, and then I'd go to bed as soon as I got home, and then I'd wake up and, take care of you, get you fed, and we'd go for a walk or go to the playground. We'd hang out, I'd play with you, and then I'd go to work, sometime in the afternoon. And then your mom would wake up. I need to stop calling her your mom. Her name was Shyla. She was no mother at all. Anyways, so Shyla would wake up, I don't know, maybe sometime around 10, 11, something like that, and maybe do something, whatever. So she would drive me to work, because, we had one vehicle at that time. It was this Chevy Tahoe that my neighbor had sold to me. That's a whole nother story. Pat Selman was a really amazing, was or is an amazing human being, and a really great mentor to me. Anyways, so he sold me his Chevy Tahoe. And so anyways, Shyla would drop me off each day at work, and then she would take the car and, go do whatever, errands, blah, blah. And so this particular day, so you have to remember, this is the day after, we had that blowout where I saw her smoking the cigarette, and yeah, it was a thing. So the next day, she's like not waking up. I have to leave at, I don't know, it's like 1 o'clock or something like that, somewhere along in that time frame. And, like, I try and gently wake her up, a few times, like, hey, Shyla, I gotta leave, and in an hour or so, you want to wake up and get some food, like that type of thing. And, she just, let me sleep, And so I think I gently reminded her like 2-3 times. And then finally, it got to the point to where it's like, hey, Shyla, you have to wake up. Like, I have to leave now, or I'm going to be late for the bus. And she snapped out of bed. And we had, like, back in those days, you actually had like alarm clocks, real alarm clocks. And at that point in time, I had like this, it was like this little brass alarm clock, that you actually like wind up, and it was a thing. Like, it was an excellent alarm, actually. And your mom stood up, and she grabbed that thing and threw it like right at my face. And I'm probably like, I don't know, 10 feet away. And I mean, it just missed me. I mean, I went to the side, and it hit the closet door right behind me. And I was like, whoa, holy shit. Like, what the hell is going on? Dude, I need you to take me to the damn bus stop, dude. Let's go. Come on, And she got all pissed off and got out of bed, and I already had you loaded up in the Tahoe, so we were ready to go. And so we go over there, we drive to the bus, and she's like, Saber, I'm not kidding, man. Shiloh was like yelling at me. She was saying all kinds of crazy shit, like, you're a piece of shit, and I hate you. I hate Las Vegas. I miss my family. I'm gonna move home. And she was saying all kinds of awful shit. And then I think near the end, she said something about you and like taking you away from me. And she said that like right as she was about to drop me off. And that like, everything else was okay, whatever. But when she brought up the fact that, you were going to be taken away from me, I was like, I had enough. And I just looked at her. I was in the passenger seat. And I said, you know what? You're a effing cunt. I never say that word, mind you. And so I dropped that on her. And then I got out, and my bag was in the back. And so I walked around to the back of the Tahoe, and I opened up the door, opened it up, and I grabbed my bag, and I pulled my bag out, and then I put it around my shoulder, and I go to close the door. And when I close the door, Shiloh's just standing right there. And I look at, and before I even have time to like react, open-handed punch. Boom! Right up against the side of my face. And she hit me hard with full every ounce of energy she had. And I was just like, I remember getting hit, and I looked back at her, and I was like, my fist clenched, and I was literally just about to punch her right in the face. Because, emotions were really high. And then I went like that, and then I saw my friends in the background that were waiting around the van, because all of them they're just like, oh! And I just dropped my hand. We're going to talk about this later. And then I went on to work, and yeah, it was a whole debacle. I think by the time that I got home, Shiloh had like settled down or whatever, and she was apologetic, and then we like really, she was saying, I didn't mean that, I was just really angry, and I just want to go home. And it was like it was really a heartfelt apology, and then I kind of came to her level, and I was like, yeah, dude, that's like, what the hell, why would you say that, man? Like, I'm not, like I was really trying to be the best person that I could be, but obviously that's a massive warning sign when you get an open hand punch to the face from your wife, and she just said she's going to take your kid away from you. So I was still kind of on guard, but I was also like trying to be empathetic and come to a conclusion. And so, things ultimately kind of settled down. So like within the next couple days, I think we had a couple more talks. And the resolution at that point in time was, you know what? How about we just take a break? Like, this is a lot. Why don't you just go home, be around family? It might be good for Saber to be around family and my mom and your mom, like, let's just take like 3 months and let's just reevaluate, and we'll go from there. Okay? And like both of us were like happy about that. It actually it was crazy because like our relationship got better after that. I mean, I'm not saying this happened for like months, but for like the next couple weeks, it was great. Like I think Christmas was coming up, and we were going to go visit everyone then anyways. So it just seems like the timing couldn't be better, right? And so everything was great, all good to go. We'd laugh and make jokes, and it was like kind of old times. Then when we pack up the Tahoe, get all her stuff in there, some of your stuff. I mean, not everything, like we weren't packing everything, but just stuff that's temporary, right? And we come up to Cottage Grove, where we're from. And I'm not kidding you, Saber, like almost from the minute that we got here, your mom was gone. She basically said, all right, see you later. why don't you hang out with Sabra, because, you're not going to see her for a little while. I was like, great, yeah, Sabra's with me. And I didn't hear, there was no phone calls. Shyla didn't check in on you, didn't stop by, nothing. She was gone. And yeah, she completely disappeared. All right, whatever. And so, you and I would go places and see friends and, total typical normal dad-daughter stuff. You were really young. I don't even think you were 2 years old at this point. You were a little kid. And so here's where the really unexpected turn happened. So I need kind of a breather. Not just from you, but from kind of everybody in the situation. And I want to go hang out with my friends. And so I go over to Austin's house. And we hang out. I kind of tell him the situation. And, I was really close with his family and his dad and mom. And they gave really good advice and guidance. And I was just going to stay there. I don't think I was planning on staying there that night, but I just had a couple drinks. And I was really stressed out, And so I ended up staying the night at the Brandstairs house, up above like Main Street. I don't know if you remember that old house they had, but it was up on a hill. And so I ended up staying the night. I'm on the couch, just about to go to sleep. It's pretty late. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. And it's also pretty icy out. And that was another reason I didn't want to go home, is it was really cold out. It was icy, and I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to stay here. I don't want to even, that's just too dangerous. So I was just about to go to sleep. It was like 1 in the morning. It's really weird. I'm like sitting there, just about to go to sleep, and I hear like tires screeching, and then I heard a crash, but it was kind of distant, like it wasn't super close, but it was close enough to where I could hear it. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy. I hope everybody's okay, And then I start to fall asleep, and I think I end up falling asleep, and then I wake up in a daze, I don't know how much longer later, to the phone ringing. I was like, oh, who the hell is calling this early in the morning? It's Brandstairs' house. That's weird. So back in the day, Saber, we had answering machines. So when you have answering machines, it actually audibly you can hear it. It goes off. It says the message, and then whoever's leaving a message, they talk, and you can actually hear what they're saying. And so I wake up to the phone ringing. The answering machine goes off. And then I hear Shyla leaving a message. She said, hey, I'm just looking to get a hold of Casey. I think he's spending the night there tonight. I got into a bad car accident, and I need to come and pick up Sabra right now. I'm at the hospital. She's rambling. She's saying all kinds of crazy shit. And this, I go from being, dead asleep, half drunk, to holy shit. And I mean, Sabra, I'm not even kidding. I hear those words and the way that she's speaking, and the plans completely, they change. Instantly, I made that decision. I mean, it was a snap decision. No way. There is no way that my daughter will be involved with this woman at any point in her life. I will not let this happen. And I was like, bam, it was literally like a lightning strike. I will protect my daughter with my life from this woman. She is going to hurt my daughter. And so I just snapped out of sleep. I drove up to Tutu and Papa's house. I told them the whole story. They understood where I was at. They completely supported anything I wanted to do. And I said, we came up with a game plan. Luckily Tutu and Papa helped me think through stuff, because I wouldn't have been able to do that on my own. I said, you know what, Casey, she thinks that we're going to Washington. Let's get on one-way ticket right now down to Las Vegas, and you start the divorce. We're going to help you through it. Like, this is not happening. You know, they're completely on board. And literally that's what happened, Sabra. You and I and Tutu got on a one-way ticket the next morning. We were wheels up, taking off from Eugene Airport at like 7 in the morning. I swear to God. We were down in Vegas, and I literally Tutu and I started on the divorce paperwork immediately. We worked our asses off for the next week, figuring out everything we needed to do and who was going to serve her the papers and blah, blah, blah. And it was at that moment where that was the unexpected turn. I'm going to be a single father, and there is no way I'm going to allow my daughter to ever be in danger like that again. I made that commitment, and it was literally the best decision I've ever made in my life. So that was the unexpected turn. And, you know, like, there's more to it after that. But basically, like, literally that's what happened is she got served with papers like 3 or 4 days later, and she never showed up. And then it was just you and me, Sabra. Well, I'll tell you other stories about other issues, but I mean, that was the moment where that was the unexpected turn. Went from being a, father, husband, blah, 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 to like single dad, F what the world has to say. Let's go. Anyways, all right, that's a bit of a long video, but I figured, I don't remember if I've shared the entire story with you, but that's how it went, man. So, anyways, love you, kiddo. I hope you enjoyed that story, or at least maybe it enlightened you about a few things that you didn't know about me and that whole kind of chapter of life. So, either way, you have a great day, kiddo. Love you, as always. See you on the next one.